read the fine print. And if you don't want to read the fine print, then find someone like myself that you trust and has your best interest at heart. You don't know what you don't know if you're not in the industry, and even the language can be confusing. So I always tell people, like, you can never ask me enough questions because I want you to know as much as you want to know, in turn, as much as I know about it.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hiter. And folks, I've got an extra special treat for you. And it's also a little extra special for me. So if you're watching with us today, you can see that I'm a little bit more dressed up than normal. And that's because my guest today, well, you'll see why here in just a minute, right? So check it out, folks. She is the vice president of everything that we do in business at Team Hiter. She's the queen of our household. She's my queen, my bride, my wife, my baby mama, all those fun little pronouns that we could come up with. She's back for her fourth appearance on the Hitstreak. Today, my bride, my queen, Rhiannon Hiter. Riri, how in the world are we doing today?
We are doing good. The day started super early, so I feel like it's already bedtime. We were at the prayer breakfast this morning and knocked out some things today, and here we are shooting a podcast. That's
right. And, I look forward to bedtime too.
Probably not in the same way I do.
Probably not. But nonetheless, it's a fun time for old Nick, isn't it? All right, so check it out. Folks, keep up with Rhiannon on all the social platforms at Rhiannon Hiter and online at teamhiter.com. All right, and man, we got so much to talk about today. All right, and this is your fourth time on the show, but we've talked about more other things than we have health insurance, and that's something that has been a huge part of our life. It's something where we've made a great impact. Specifically, you have made a great impact on the marketplace, and we're going to really I kind of want to let you show off a little bit today because you're really, really good at it. So we're going to be doing that. But before we get there, let's have a little storytelling real quick, right? So you mentioned that you got up early today as we're recording this today, this morning was the Tennessee State Prayer Breakfast. It was the 51st annual. And it's always a great time, right? So it's at Lipscomb University. We had some friends with us there today. It's always a good day, right?
It's a great day. It's an event I look forward to every single year.
And we found out about the state one because of the national one, where we just went our third time to our third annual national prayer breakfast in Washington, D.C. And you and I are official Tennessee delegates for the Tennessee chapter, which is great. And it's an honor and a privilege. Let's talk about that one for a minute, because this year was extra special.
It truly was. Normally it's a choir, and then Stephen Curtis Chapman has usually been the musical guest, which he happened to be the musical guest at the National Prayer Breakfast this year. But this year they had Danny Goki sing with the Belonging Co. They're a band as well, and it was.
So you're talking about the state one today?
Yes, the Tennessee State Breakfast today.
Gotcha.
Danny Goki was incredible, sounded amazing. The Belonging Co., they sounded amazing. And the speaker, I didn't know who he was, but as soon as I got home today, this morning, Ethan said, "Who is the speaker?" And I told him it was Coach Ballgame. Coach Ballgame. He knew exactly, when I said his name, he knew exactly who he was. And He was very disappointed he did not get to go this year. But I did let him know there were no donuts this year, so he didn't miss out on too much.
That's right. Well, the National Prayer Breakfast and the State Prayer Breakfast are apples and oranges. They're night and day. Talk to me about this year at the Prayer Breakfast was extra special, is what I was leading to a minute ago. So what was so extra special to you about this year's National Prayer Breakfast?
Well, this year, the president, the vice president, the Speaker of the House, all of them were in the hotel that we stay at and where they host the prayer breakfast, which is the Washington Hilton, also known as the place where Reagan got shot. And just seeing all of the things that go into the Secret Service, and they do it right. Like it was very extra special just being in the presence of all of the Secret Service and just how how well they run everything. And it's just really cool.
This isn't a political episode, but like I will say that, this is our third National Prayer Breakfast. And the first two that we went to the first one after COVID, because I guess they skipped a year for the first time in 80-something years or whatever it is, due to COVID. When they came back, the president and the VP and all those folks that were used to be in the room at the Hilton at the prayer breakfast, they had their breakfast at the Capitol, and they Skyped them in. So that happened even last year when it wasn't COVID, which again, it's a great time and all those things. But this year, President Trump came to the hotel. It was great because we got to watch them set the room, clear the room and all those things to get it ready so it's safe. He came in with all of his Secret Service. VP Vance was there. We heard from Speaker Johnson, who's freaking hilarious. It was extra special having him there because all the prayer breakfasts I remember watching on TV, the president was there.
Right. And then we also get to go, after the breakfast, there's events that go on all week while you're there. But that Thursday after the breakfast, you break for lunch and then you go to the the Capitol, the National Capitol, and we meet with Zach Wamp, who is a Speaker of the House, I believe.
Former congressman.
Yep. And he takes you on a tour, and he is just like textbook what you would want in what he does. And he takes you on this tour, and you can see his passion behind it. And while we're there, we walk in the rotunda, and this man who I recognized but didn't realize where I recognized him from said, "Welcome to my prayer room." And it was Lorenzo Sewell who did the inauguration prayer just weeks prior to that in that same room. And he was just the nicest guy. And I planned that I would imagine he would be sitting in this seat sometime this year, because if you haven't heard him pray, it's powerful. He's got a powerful voice. That's
a great idea. We need to invite him to come be on the show. That would be a wonderful time and an unbelievable blessing to all of the people that would hear it and watch it with us. And that's a wonderful idea. We need to make that happen. I'm gonna make a little note on here. Book Lorenzo,
pastor.
Yep. By the way, I'm going to ask you later who are some other people you'd like to see me have up in here, right? So she's going to say the ones that pay. I'm just kidding, maybe. But what else happened? So we heard, you got to pray with Lorenzo at the Capitol. We sat on the House floor again, which is unreal, and hear stories from the congressman and whatnot about the House, and literally like what happened yesterday at the House and all those things. What else was really neat that we do?
We went and listened to the Defending Faith, the Alliance Defending Faith, ADF.
ADF, yeah.
Yes, and that was eye-opening. I mean, here we are, Americans, mad because of whatever, reason, and people can't even say that they thank or praise Jesus for passing a test without being hunted down and stoned to death.
Yeah.
So it was perspective is...
So they gave us perspective from other countries.
Yes, that was specifically in Nigeria, where they said more people get killed for their faith, Christianity, than in any other country combined in 1 year in Nigeria.
It was eye-opening. It's tragic. And I didn't know anything about the ADF until we went there, except for, years ago when they had the shooting where the person went in and they had the shooter basically crash the office and whatnot. So the security there was crazy, right?
It was very crazy. Security was crazy pretty much wherever you go. I mean, even the Capitol, the hotel, we're in the hotel already and then getting into that. So the security there was also, pretty tight someone came in with a gun. Why would you not do that to protect them? Yeah. So, but that organization was something I had no idea about, and just can't believe that it's not more talked about.
And the people were brilliant.
So smart. Like, these lawyers spend most of their time in these, countries that are, very poverty driven, and they lose time with their families. The sacrifices the people that work for those companies make are incredible.
Absolutely. Anything else that really stuck out this year? I got to go down myself personally and do the presidential walk, and which was an honor and a privilege. But we did hear from one other person you hadn't mentioned yet that was a pretty big deal.
Oh no! Did I forget who it was?
You just forgot that you haven't said him yet, but you definitely remember old Jordan Peterson.
Oh yes, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. The night we were going to his dinner, I said, let me go back upstairs. I need to get something out of our room. And I hop on the elevator with like 15 other people. And then all of a sudden, this man with this crazy jacket sticks his arm in. I was like, oh, hey, Jordan Peterson, how are you today? And just rode the elevator with him all the way back up to my room. So that was pretty cool. Was not expecting that. But that's just the feel that when you're there, you be open to everything because you just never know who you're going to run into.
And he's such a brilliant mind, it's special. We got to hear him basically like work through something real time when he was on his stage talking to us. It was almost like we weren't even there.
It was about the disciples.
Yeah. Oh, it was a very biblical thing that he wasn't wrestling with it. But I mean, he's figuring things out. Like we got to watch a genius. I call him a mad scientist, and that's a compliment, right? I think that's like, if you're a mad scientist, that's cool. Like, so I called him a mad scientist, but like watching him think through the relationship through the disciples to Jesus and their belief and their faith and all those things and how he connected dots and came to these thoughts and conclusions real time. It was above most people's heads, but I was getting to watch one of the deepest thinkers on earth, in my opinion, think. And I'm like, so I was learning how to think. Like, that was what I got out of it. Besides from what he talked about, I was just like, okay, I see how he's working through things and navigating through. As a guy that's trying to constantly grow and figure things out, like, that was awesome to see. Like, that was like a backstage pass almost.
It was truly awesome.
And it was a small room. Mm-hmm. It was just for Tennessee. So
Tennessee and Georgia, but there was less than 70 people in the room.
Less than 70 people in the room for an hour-long Jordan Peterson keynote, a special one. It was cool.
It was very cool.
It was cool. Now, the historic DC Hilton is incredible. But so a couple things happened there that normally don't happen. So they're really, really good. It's packed. This is a big deal. And normally we normally have been very pleased with the room and all that kind of stuff. Well, two of the people that we took down, Wiggs and Melanie Thompson,
God bless them, their
room flooded before they had just unpacked, come down to dinner, walked upstairs, and they had to go back into another room after another room and another room. They finally got that right. Our room didn't have it had beds and a desk and a sink and a tub. And that was it. There was no refrigerator. There was no drawers or place to put your clothes. There was no places to put your toiletries in the bathroom. It was like a little standalone sink it was just different. And we asked them about their refrigerator. They're like, did you request one? And I was like, what? Is that even a thing anymore?
And someone that likes to unpack the second we get there and put things away, that was a problem for me.
It was.
It was hard to live throughout the week like that. I mean, first world problems here for sure. But other than that, the whole experience is something, if you get the opportunity to experience it, you definitely want to.
It's incredible. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. All right. So I'm going to let you drive. All right. So let's see. What do you want to talk about first? I've got insurance. I've got, there's a lot of fun that we've been having, not in our pool lately, but we've created a lot of interest in what's going on with our pool. We might talk about that. The kids are growing like crazy. I know what I want to ask you about first. You recently discovered Nootropics, something that I've been extremely excited about for a long time and been using for a long time. It's made a big difference in my life. And I finally got you to try one, the Zero In by the Root Brands.
You did. And you've been asking me for weeks, months, I don't like change. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And wow, I only took half of the dosage. And in that, within 15 minutes, it's almost like you're seeing black and white, and all of a sudden you can see in color, you can think in color. Everything you're doing is just to the next level times 3. And I mean, yesterday I had to get up early. I took one the second I got up. By 9 o'clock, I'd done more things with no coffee, just my lemon water and the pills, more things in 3 hours than most people probably do in 3 days. It was wild. I mean, cook breakfast, cook lunch, made lunches for the day. I did laundry. I emptied the dishwasher. I worked out. I walked 2 miles. I colored my hair. I took I did all of that in 3 hours, and with I didn't even want coffee. I almost forced myself to drink it because I like it, but I love it. I'm going to get up to the 2 dosage pills, but it's a game changer. It really is.
It's like, the best way I know how to describe it is, so like we loved that movie, the Limitless movie where he took the Limitless pill. It reminds me a lot of that, but like there's a lot of fiction and cinematography in the Hollywood movie of the Limitless pill, but it's kind of like all the benefits of Adderall with zero of the negative and the side effects, and it's not addictive, and it's all natural, and it's clean, and it's a vegetable based thing.
I honestly, like, when I think about what it did, like something that it turned on. If you've ever seen that movie Click with Adam Sandler,
yeah,
it was like you were in autopilot. You're in autopilot, and then you take that, and it's like, what am I doing? Like, their time is the one thing I don't get back. I want to make the most of my time. And this one dosage of this pill just uplifted me to make the most of my time. I'm not on autopilot anymore. There's, so many times I tell myself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And that pill made me not second guess any of those subconscious decisions that I make.
Well, again, it's like, it's the smoothest thing though. It's not like a jolt where you like, but it's so smooth, but it's so drastic that you feel it when you know it happened. Mm-hmm. You definitely know that it happened. And it's awesome. And I'd like that Dr. Christina Rahm and Clayton are 2 of the coolest, most badass people. And gosh, they're brilliant. And like you put those 2 together, and then the science of Dr. Christina and then all the stuff they do, and it's just like they've got their whole line's great, right? What else have you tried from the Root brands?
I've been using her Ella Pure. It's a cleanser, a moisturizer. She gave me 2 other products, and I've already went through those, but it's a cleanser. It's a peptide cleanser. The packaging is my favorite. That's, women, that's what we love. But even the moisturizer, it's really like a thin based, and I've mixed that with what I'm currently using, and I really enjoy it so far.
Well, it's an exciting relationship that we have with them, and we're so grateful and honored to be trusted to be faces of their brands and be collaborating and work with them like we are. It's incredible. It truly is. So zeroed in by the Root brand, which, by the way, we'll be getting that a link that you can purchase those if you'd like in the show notes, right? So we're going to make a note of that, Jensen, that we want to put that link in the show notes, and then we might as well just leave it there. All right. So, all right, where else? What else you want to go to next? Got that there. Let's see. What do you want to get into next? Do you want to dive into the insurance stuff now? You want to get right into it?
Let's get that out of the way. All
right. So one of the most common questions that I get, Rhiannon, is, for a long time, people knew us as successful insurance agents, and we were. And we launched hundreds of agencies with people, but we always had a huge, clean, awesome book of business ourselves of clients that you served. Right? Every single day. And that's still going. One of the most common questions I get is, Nick, do you guys still do insurance? And the answer is, oh, yes. You don't see a lot of marketing behind it because we've been building other things, but we're about to fix that too, aren't we?
We are. There's a lot of misconception and a lot of agents, just like in Indian industry that are looking to make a sell. They don't have someone's bottom line. And some of the things that I've witnessed over the past few months, some of these things can be life or death if you don't write somebody the right policy, or you don't you're not clear on what to expect. So many people out there tell these customers that they're giving them something that they're not. And, even the products that we have access to, they get a bad rep because the people that are on the other end selling them aren't doing what's best for that person. They're doing what's best for their bank account. And that's never something that's driven me. Sure, it's nice, but at the end of the day, I am someone that likes to be right. And I will go to bat. I feel like I could go to bat with any insurance agent in the country over what's available to people on the private market, public market.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. Well, I'm going to tell them what the secret sauce is. All right. So first of all, prove me wrong. Nobody's going to care as much as you do.
That is very correct.
All right. That's one. But the real secret sauce is you're not just coming at this from the agency perspective. You used to run a doctor's office. You used to run the front of a doctor's office. You have unbelievable, unparalleled experience on both sides of it, right? From the doctor. So there's three legs here: the agent leg, the patient leg, and the doctor or the provider leg. And you have been all three.
That is true.
And that's very rare. So that means she's got the whole thing surrounded, which is why every time she talks to people, they're like, golly, this is the most eye-opening discussion I've ever had in this. I learned more in an hour with Rhiannon than I've known my entire life. Right? So that is what makes the secret sauce, because nobody knows how to navigate through a claim better than you, because you are the one that was collecting funds from patients in the past.
That's right. I mean, tons and tons of examples on mistakes where someone typed in a number wrong. I mean, and that's one of the things I tell every one of our clients. The only mistake you can make is by not asking me questions. And if you're making that mistake, then I'm not going to be able to help you after the fact. I also tell them, just don't pay anything until you talk to me first. You get the bill in the mail, you get your explanation of benefits. Fine. Let me take a look at that. Let's make sure everybody did what's right. And my ultimate goal is to teach them enough to where they can start to do that on their own. Because when you can own that part of the way that the insurance process works, and you know that, you just feel more confident. So many people buy insurance and have no idea what they bought. They're surprised by every bill. And my ultimate goal is to help, really clear that path, that there's always going to be surprises. It's the medical industry. It's not regulated. So, but to help kind of lessen the blow when it comes to surprise medical bills.
Managing expectations. Mm-hmm. You said something yesterday that I loved about the insurance space. Do you remember what it is? I
do. I was talking to a real estate agent, and I have the amazing gift of gab and being able to talk to someone and put it in their perspective from what they're used to. And she said, we were talking about buying insurance, and, so many people say, well, I don't need insurance. I'm healthy. I'm like, well, would you if you bought a house, would you not buy homeowner's insurance? It's new. And that's the same to me, right? That is a big, big myth, amongst consumers in that industry, that I'm healthy. I don't need it. Well, insurance is risk, right? You're a good driver. You don't need car insurance. Well, what about all the other people? You need car insurance.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the key word is accident. So you bought a brand new car. Why would you insure it? In case of an accident, in case it got stolen, right? You buy a new home. Why would you insure it? In case of an accident, tornado, something, a bad storm, something might happen, right? And you buy, why does a 23-year-old kid need life insurance, right? Well, besides from the financial benefits, if they know how to use those, in case of an accident, right? Because accidents happen to healthy people.
That's right.
Every day. So there's been, especially with the tragic thing that happened in New York last year with the CEO of United Healthcare that was murdered, a lot of people believe that health insurance is a scam, right? What do you say to that?
Anything, if you don't read the fine print, everyone would think everyone's a scam. Credit card companies, interest, a scam. No, it clearly states word for word what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And insurance policies do the same. And I have read in Tennessee, every plan that's available in Tennessee, I have read every brochure, every exclusion, all of those things. And if you read those exclusions and read those policy brochures, you would know what to expect and what your plan's going to cover and what it's not, and what the limitations are if you have pre-existing, and if it covers doctor's visits. It is black and white. It's all there. Now, I will say some of the plans that you can pull up online without having a license, just you go as a consumer to healthcare.gov, even Farm Bureau, some of the healthcare solutions, the short-term plans, you can pull all those up. And there's definitely more of a brochure that goes with that than what you're seeing online. And they do send that to you, but most people just throw it away and don't read it. So it's not a scam if you read through what you're actually buying.
It is crazy that to think that, because we used to do that, the same thing too. When you get that big gigantic packet in the mail of what looks like 10,000 pages, it looks like 15 Bibles stacked on top of each other. And they throw them away. Think about it. Think about all the information. Like, again, how can you manage your own expectations if you don't know the details of what you bought? You know what I mean? And what we're going through with the pool situation. Well, guess what? Our pool was insured, but it very clearly states that what happened is not a covered thing, which means it's on the other party who built it and their insurance and whatnot. It's definitely not our insurance's responsibility. It's in black and white. Now, guess what? We didn't find that out until the claim happened. We thought, oh, we're covered. It's probably going to be a thing, and it wasn't. So, like, again, this is a common mistake that everybody makes, including even us sometimes. But when we really got into it, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit hurt, even though it's not our insurance's, our homeowner's insurance job to cover this, clearly. And now that we know what we know, and we got the legal help that we got and everything else, we definitely know that it's not for them. But like, I was a little bit hurt when they were like, when they say, sorry, that's not a covered thing. You're like, wait a minute, what? I just got rejected? That's what it feels like. But if I had known what I know now, I wouldn't have felt that way.
Well, and everyone is human, and most people take everything personally. And
hold on. There you go.
Insurance is just, I tell our clients, look, you got to be a couple things. You either got to be a really good consumer and know exactly what you're doing and know the stuff, or you can just let me be your advisor and I can help you through it. Trust is the relationship here, because I promise you, I have been through it, the last 20 plus years in this field. I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm very seasoned and very knowledgeable in most of the stuff.
Well, like one of the things I love to hear you say is like, the average family in the United States is going to pay probably somewhere between $800 and $1,500 a month on their health insurance, right? Is that pretty fair? Some good numbers? All right. So think about that. Let's just say $1,000 for a month for easy math times 12. It's a $12,000 a year decision. And you're going to try to take that on with no experience. Like, when else in your life would you make a $12,000 decision, knowing that you don't know what you're looking at and not want to have the opinion of an expert?
You should never. And when someone comes to us, a client, and they check the boxes of the products that I know are going to be best for them, I'm going to fight for them to get that product, because I know if something happens down the road, they're going to thank me. I don't care about the short term if they're, don't like what I say, because a lot of the times, well, I need to do some more research on my own. I need to look this up. Sure, let me do it with you. And most of the time, in a couple months, they usually come back and say, you're right. And I'm not saying I want to be right in that sense. I don't want them to be wrong and getting to a situation to where they're not covered on something because they went with the wrong policy.
It's a, let's see. It's one of those things where, like, people sweat the small things, right? Even our auto insurance has $1,000 deductible, right? And we hit a deer.
You hit a deer.
I hit a deer. Some significant. The deer actually hit me, if I'm being honest. But needless to say, may he rest in peace. But needless to say, even the Jeep was customed out. Like, you know what I mean? They were replacing all of it. We still had to pay that $1,000 deductible, to get it fixed, and it's going to take, a month to get it fixed. Now there's a rental car included and stuff like that, but like, we weren't. Think about that. A pretty significant accident and we still had to come out $1,000. It's an insurance claim, but like I have to put, like when it gets out, we were literally had a thing on the books to get the, new brakes and new tires and rotate them all and do some basic maintenance. Insurance don't cover that. But a lot of times when it comes to health insurance, people sweat the small stuff. They sweat the small stuff. And it's one of the most common things that I used to hear all the time that bothered me is, there'll be a $20,000 bill. Network reduction would be, let's just say $10,000. There's a $10,000 bill. They're like, my insurance didn't cover anything. Like, no, it did. It covered $10,000 because the bill was $20,000. It cut it in half, right? So on one $20,000 claim, if it covered half on $20,000 and you paid $12,000 a year, you just got $10,000 back like that, and that's before any plan benefits kick in. That's just the network reduction.
You're right. You're paying to be a part of that benefit of that discount program. I mean,
it's an association type rule.
Yeah, and so many people say, "Well, it's cheaper if I just pay cash." The discount for cash. You know what? Maybe on a one-off emergency room visit, but if you need a liver transplant, you can't even get one without health insurance. 90% of the time, if you don't have health insurance, you cannot get an organ transplant. So again, that's the small stuff. The big stuff is what truly, truly matters. And if you can afford to pay for it and you're willing to exchange $1,000 a month to cover your risk as we planned out your insurance plan, then why would you not do that, right? You don't want to come out. I would much rather be out of pocket $20,000 for the year because I paid $12,000 in premiums and my deductible was $8,000. Then I could be out $2 million if I didn't have insurance.
That's what it really comes down to. So for me, there's no price on earth that I wouldn't pay to protect my family from the financial burden that could come. The unknown financial burden. But at the end of the day, let's just use a couple of examples. So like when Ethan was like 6 months old, I had appendicitis. It ruptured. It was a big old mess. And I don't remember exactly the situation, but we were in between policies. It was a waiting period on one, but basically we were uninsured as far as the hospital was concerned. Mm-hmm. And if my granddad hadn't have settled that and paid that in cash, it would have made things really hard for us because I missed work for quite a long time and we were flat broke at the time anyways. Mm-hmm. And that happened, when I first met you, I can remember the insurance agents coming over to the house and we'd always want the cheapest thing and never wanted to know about it and all of that. We were healthy young. We didn't need it. Well, dude, something happened and I needed it. And literally like something as simple as just paying your premium on time. Because when you get into an underwritten plan and you let your policy lapse, if you've got something that happens sickness wise, they can't, you're going back through underwriting again and you can get declined. And, we literally just, we have a close encounter with something that just recently happened with that. You know what I mean? Where it was a transplant was needed. So at the end, I'm saying that all to say, like, at the end of the day, it's $1,000 a month to make sure that no matter what sickness or critical illness, cancer, or accident could happen to you, it's not going to cause financial burden on your family. That's why you buy insurance.
That's right. You're literally exchanging risk for money. The more you pay the insurance company, the less risk you have. Same thing with your life insurance policy, your car insurance policy. If you go to thegeneral.com, not that I'm knocking that at all, but it's a very generic policy. Probably, I don't even know if it's the state minimum for car insurance. If you have a wreck, it's not going to cover that. You go online and buy a short-term plan for health insurance, they change the rules. 4 months is all that plan lasts. Mm-hmm. And if you have something happen, you can no longer be enrolled in a short-term plan. You have to re-enroll every 4 months. Mm-hmm. Sure, they're cheaper than what you're seeing, but they're cheap for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. You're not paying very much money. Why would you expect them to cover thousands and thousands of dollars when you're paying a couple $100s a month?
Yeah.
That's their business model still at the end of the day.
Especially if it's recurring medical bills and recurring treatment over and over and over again. Nobody's
going to do that.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, it's just like life insurance or anything else, it's to protect you and your family from a financial hardship due to an unforeseen accident or illness, right? It's not necessarily, you can build it in, but it's not necessarily for, a vaccination or a well check or any of those things, just like your car insurance isn't for that for your car.
Right. I mean, some plans, it just depends on what you need. And that's I think one of my favorite things that I can do with clients is build something exactly the way they need it, down to what they want their deductible to be, what their co-insurance is, what their max out of pocket is. Do they want doctor's visits for the urgent care? Do they want prescription coverage? Do they want to, protect their $5,000 deductible on accidents and make it $500 and spend $20 more a month? Do they want to spend $40 more a month and get a lump sum cash check if they're diagnosed with a critical illness? Yes, we said yes to all of those. And that is my favorite part, because you can take away or add whatever you want. But again, the less you pay, the more that's on you.
It was funny because, Rhea and I are worth a lot if something bad happens to protect the kids. And it was funny. I told the story the last time you were on here about how you were poisoning me with, what was it, with the fiber?
Yeah, the laxative.
She was giving me a laxative, telling me, and we thought it was fiber, and I took it for a month, and you can imagine what happened. And that was the joke is like, man, maybe I need to pull off that insurance policy just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, so you came up with a system that I love that you run all of our clients through, and it's you basically came up with the 5 ways that you spend money on your health care. And you basically showed them where, the money that you pay in, how it protects the 5 ways you can spend money on your health care and how the plan will work. Basically, you took, what are the 5 ways? Anyways?
And what I start with first is there's 2 most important parts of your plan. And that's the network, who takes it, is it PPO? That's the most important question. And then second, is it have a max out of pocket if it's out of network?
All right. So what does that mean? So network means you can't get in the door if you're out of network.
Correct. You can get in the door, but you're going to pay for full price.
So you're uninsured if you get in the door.
Basically, yes.
And a lot of times they won't even let you in the door.
That's right. If you're out of network.
All right. So network's important. It doesn't matter how great the plan is if nobody accepts it. Right.
That's right.
All right. And then out of pocket max, what does that mean?
That means that if you've got a claim of $2 to $3 million because you got cancer and you've been in the hospital for 6 months, that no matter how much that claim goes up to, it can go up to $5 million, that there's a max amount that you're going to pay. And just for an example, on our plan, the max we're going to pay if that happens is $7,000.
So the most we could pay over any claim, even if it was a $3 million brain aneurysm or whatever else, is $7,000
if it's in
that
network.
If
it's out of network, it's $16,000. But again, I would take $16,000 over $3 million any day.
And we have the biggest and largest network that's offered today.
Correct.
See, it's not that hard. You just got to know an expert like old Riri
That's
here.
right.
So, all right. So the 5 ways you spend money. So what number? So the 2 most important things in a health plan are: do you have the best network? Yep. Okay. Do you so what's the quality of your network? And then, are you covered in, is there an out-of-pocket max? Meaning what you pay that calendar year over any claim, there's a stop on it, right? Once you've hit a certain amount, it's done. A lot of people think that's what their deductible is.
And it's the follow-up is if it's out of network, because so many plans look good on the front end, they're lower price. And then you kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the policy and realize that if it's out of network, your out-of-pocket is unlimited.
And like the plan that we have, most agents can access that. You have a unique contract where you can shop and advise on 100% of the plans in the United States, including some that very few people have access to.
That is correct.
That's awesome. All right, the 5 ways that you spend money on your health care. Let's go. Let's name all. Let's go 1 through 5, and then I'll let you do your thing. Right. So, What's number 1?
Premium.
So, what is the premium? That's the monthly
bill that you pay
to have insurance. All right. What's number 2?
Prescriptions.
All right. So if you take prescriptions on the regular,
correct,
right? Not just because of antibiotics or due to an illness, but
just maintenance medication.
There. All right. Number 3.
Number 3 is sickness.
All right. Would that? Okay. Feel like that would cover them all, but there's more apparently. All right.
Accident.
Okay. Accident. So that wouldn't be considered a sickness. Okay.
And then critical illness. That's life-threatening.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at Hitlab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the Hitlab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. So like what would be some critical illnesses? Cancer, I guess, heart attack, stroke.
Yeah, cancer, heart attack, stroke, liver failure, things like that.
Yeah, there was the old CASH acronym: cancer, accident, stroke, heart attack. That's where you want to make sure that you protect your cash, right? Your cash is protected. I love that. You're learning today, Jensen, ain't you, baby? Come on. All right. So the 5 ways you spend money on your health care. So your premium is your monthly payment. That's self-explanatory. And your prescriptions, your maintenance prescriptions. That's so basically, I've heard you do it. If they spend $1,000 a month on their premium, and let's say $150 on the medications, you basically say you spend $1,150 a month on basic stuff before any claims and whatnot, right?
Yep.
All right. So that leaves sickness, accident, and critical illness. Where would you start from there?
I guess with sickness, premium and prescriptions are pretty self-explanatory. So sickness, there's 2 parts to sickness. There's just like your common flu, strep throat, pink eye, stomach bug, just, the things that you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on if you don't have doctor's visits in your plan or access to an on-call doctor.
Mm-hmm. The on-call doctor's big.
Yeah, just the minor stuff. The second part of sickness is, to me, it's the things that are going to put you in the ER that aren't necessarily life-threatening. So kidney stones, appendicitis, diverticulitis, gallbladders, anything female related, like if you have a ruptured cyst, you're going in to the ER because you're having chest pain and it ends up being anxiety. Those are the things that that's where your deductible is definitely coming in.
Wow. So again, not all, like the plans pay out specifically. So but we feel like we kind of make insurance a vague thing. So like the plans pay differently based on the type of sickness, right? And versus accident, critical illness. Then okay, you're tracking here. So the big, you want to make sure that you have a low enough deductible that the sickness doesn't hurt if you have the gallbladder thing or the appendicitis. Because like, dude, my appendicitis thing, I think my granddad settled for like $18,000 because it ruptured. So and the bill was probably 6 figures.
At least, yeah. So
it would have killed. We would have never recovered from that.
That was 15 years ago. I can't imagine what that price is now.
That's crazy. That's right. That's right. So okay, so your sicknesses are what you're really insuring with your sickness isn't the common cold and those things. It's really for the big ER things where maybe like you get admitted from.
And most of the time you're admitted for a night or two. It's it's not life-threatening. And in the time, it may feel like it. I have a lot of clients that go to the ER and they get these bills and like, well, I thought I was having a heart attack or I was having chest pain, and they go and it ended up being anxiety. I mean, that's where you're going to meet your deductible. That is where that's going to kick in. You'll get a network discount, but then anything left over, you're going to pay and be responsible for until you meet the deductible at that negotiated rate.
All right. Number 4 is accidents. Is that where you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So just right down the line, accidents, that can be, so many different things. You have your broken bones. For whatever reason, people always say car accidents. Side topic, car accidents. If you have a car accident, the motor vehicle insurance pays out before the medical insurance,
right. Just
so people are clear on that, because that's a very confused thing. People confuse that all the time. But it's your broken bones. You got food poisoning, you had allergic reaction, a hernia, maybe you're lifting weights.
Bug bites or like
a torn ligament because you're 40 trying to play kickball thinking you're 25,
Stop, I'm right
yes.
here.
Those are the accidents, the school, Ethan was running around with the dog. We told him to quit. And the next thing you hear is a crash and he busted his head open. Accident. Yeah. ER. So those are the most common big bills, are the accidents. And what's, I think special in these policies is you can add supplements to protect them, to protect your out of pocket. So if your deductible is $5,000 on an accident, you can add a policy that's roughly $30 to $50 depending on the person, and you can pretty much cover that deductible. So, I show everybody that option first, and then they can take it off if they want. Most people don't, especially I would feel like most of our clients have kids, and kids are going to have accidents. It's inevitable at some point.
That's right. And again, and when you go to the ER, it's emergency room, so it's emergency service. So anything that is rushed is escalated in price.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
And waiting.
And most accidents, you don't wait till Monday to go see your doctor. You got to go to the ER. So you got to have good accident coverage. Got it. All right. And number 5, the critical illness.
The critical illness, cancer, stroke, heart attack, anything that is life-threatening.
Okay.
In 2020, COVID became a critical illness because people were being hospitalized, and for days. And so that became a part of a critical illness. But the big stuff, I think the one thing most people worry about now is cancer. And I believe heart disease is, it's a big killer in women. I don't know the statistics on that, but it's pretty out there. And most people don't know that, So yeah, it's the big stuff, the life threatening.
And the way that you like to do those in is I want to break down. So let's do a breakdown of an accident claim and a critical illness claim, and hell, a sickness claim while we're at it. Let's just go right down the list. So you can kind of talk about how, let's just say it's a traditional plan like ours, where there's a deductible and a co-insurance. All right. And then there's a stop loss or out of pocket max, right? So let's just say, and we won't say what sickness it is, but let's just pick a round number to show them how it works. So first of all, what are the details of the insurance plan? You just want to use the plan we have as an example?
Well, I'll just use our plan. That plan doesn't necessarily exist anymore because we got it so long ago. A version of that plan. It. Yes, we get to keep it. The most common plan that I give as a proposal to people as a quote is it's a $5,000 deductible.
Okay.
Once you've met that deductible, the plan will pay 80% of the cost after the negotiated rate. Then and you pay 20%. So I always use the phrase of, look, the $5,000, it's an artery. You've hit the money. You're bleeding all the money out. Like, it's coming. Once you've stopped the bleeding, it slows down a little bit. Now you're only paying $2,000 at that 20% rate.
Okay. So the most you could pay in the year would be $7,000.
Correct.
Based on deductible and co-insurance, and then boom, you're done paying. Mm-hmm. No matter what else happens the rest of that year, you're good.
If it's a covered service, whether it's the sickness or accident or critical illness.
Got it. It's 100% paid after that. Okay. This is cool. So, and by the way, so again, like the network that we have, we're not technically supposed to say there's we're not supposed to say a number that network, because every one of them is different based on the provider and all that kind of stuff. Literally every provider you go to has a different network reduction, a network discount.
And they change every single year.
All right. So, but let's just say on average, because it's with the network that we have, it's usually more than 50% on average.
I've been giving like 30 to 50%.
Okay.
Because so many, like the facilities just change so much.
30 to 50%.
Yeah.
All right. So 30 to 50%. So the reason I'm saying that is because let's say 50% for easy math. All right. So to hit your $5,000 deductible, it's got to be a $10,000 claim.
Yep.
Right. Or a $10,000 bill. And that's that's after network reduction. Right. So am I tracking?
So let's say.
Oh, sorry. It's a $10,000 bill.
Yeah. So let's just for a sickness. If you had a sickness like your diverticulitis, you went to the ER twice. Mm-hmm. Twice in 1 month, you went to the ER, had scopes, had all these things done. We did not even hit a $6,000 deductible on 2 ER visits. That's because the network discount took off 70% of the actual charges of those bills.
All right. So I'm tracking now. So let's say it's a $20,000 bill. All right. It's a $20,000 bill and it had a 50% network reduction. So that means there's $10,000 left. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you paid $5,000 of your deductible. All right. And now you're paying 20% of the next $5,000, which would be $1,000. So you've paid $6K total on a $20K bill, and you only spend $1,000 more before you hit that $7,000 out-of-pocket max before you're 100% covered on all covered items after that.
That's right.
That's awesome. So think about that, guys. When you have a $5,000 deductible, well, that's after network reduction. If you got a great network, that's a really big thing. And then it's 20% of everything until you hit the next $2,000 or like $7,000 total for your out-of-pocket. That's your out-of-pocket max. Mm-hmm. And so like, think about how big of a bill that has to be. And the real question is like, well, guys, like, if I'm talking to you right now, have you ever spent that much money in a year on your insurance or on your medical? They're probably like, no. I'm like, cool. Then that means you're probably in really good shape, right? Because I'm assuming this is for mostly healthy people.
Correct.
Okay. So we're talking about a private policy for what would be considered healthy people. They can afford to pay for their health insurance.
Yeah, I would just, limited pre-existing conditions. There are some conditions that can be covered. If you're more than 2 to 3 maintenance medications, it would be questionable. But again, that's why we do free consultations with everyone to see if they qualify. I'm not even going to go into this information with someone until I know on my end from the field underwriting that I can do based on my underwriting guidelines, if it's something I'm going to even present to them,
right.
Or if I'm going to say, you know what, meet my partner that can help you with a plan that's going to be better for your situation.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So understanding how things are billed and the claims process, I think that's one of the biggest things. Like there's just nobody better at it than you. And like when, doctors' offices and those care facilities, well, they're operated by humans, which means there's going to be mistakes made all the time, right? We know that because we're all human and we all make mistakes, right? So all these practices are human run and they make human mistakes, right? So all right. So we walked through basically a $20,000 claim, got it down to where the customer was paying 6 G's. And they, they only had 1,000 left before everything was basically taken care of after that. That's pretty all right. So that would be a sickness. All right. Now let's look at an accident. Let's look at a $20,000 accident then.
Same way, like you get that discount.
So network. So let's say it's 50%, $10K.
Yep.
All right, $10K. And then you got a $5,000 deductible. So basically, it works out the exact same as before. You're spending $6K on that thing, right? On that accident. All right. So walk me through from there. What happens? So that's the base part of the policy that does that.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if you took my advice and purchased the supplements that we can add on to that plan, then your deductible is only going to be $500.
So it's kind of like I'm hearing like a lot of people would associate the word supplement with like gap coverage in an auto policy
or umbrella coverage for
okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. So out of that, again, I had that accident, and I get the policy does what it does. It basically on 20K, it knocked off $14,000. Mm-hmm. Big deal. But I'm left with $6,000. And Rhiannon's like, well, wait, there's more. So how do you make that $6,000 only $5,000 out of my pocket?
500.
Sorry, 500. Yeah. How do you make that $6,000 only 500 out of my pocket?
There's a couple accident products that you can add on to those policies to build it that way. So even if you wanted a $10,000 deductible and a $20,000 max out of pocket, you've just opened some room for what you can spend. I highly recommend covering that deductible and out of pocket for accidents at the minimum, because I see those happen the most.
Well, if you're looking at somebody, let's say 30 years old, and they've never been truly ill, right? It's like, look, the only way you're really going to probably hit this based on the last 30 years of health history in your life is an accident. So let's make sure that we can protect your pocketbook there, right? Because again, that's in our experience, especially yours, and you've worked with literally thousands of clients to date. We've had very few cancer claims, knock on wood, thank goodness. We've had very, very few critical illness, actually, as a matter of fact, critical illness claims, but a ton of accidents.
A lot. I feel like that's, at any given time, I'm working with probably 10 to 15 clients a month, dealing with making sure that the accident and everything gets paid out the way that it's supposed to, and their out of pocket is the $500.
I like that. That sounds good. All right. So let's take, I don't know how you could have a $20,000 critical illness, but we're just going to You know what? We're just going to bump that up for easy math. We're going to say it's $100,000. All right. And let's say 100 grand's easy math. So we could do a 30% network discount on this one. All right. So now it knocked off 30 G's and now there's 70 grand left. All right. But again, we got a $5,000 out of pocket max. Right. So,
5,000 deductible.
Sorry. Yep. That's right. $5,000 deductible and a 7,000, the out of pocket max on that policy, 7,000. Right. So on that 100 grand policy, the client's responsible for 7,000.
Correct.
Wow. All right. So that means $93,000 worth of coverage from the insurance plan. All right. So walk me through the critical illness product. Because again, if Nick has that critical illness and I'm, let's say it was a stroke or a heart attack and I'm, basically I can't do what I do to make money for my family for 3 or 4 months. And I had to come out of pocket $7,000 to cover it, to pay for the leftover bills after the insurance did what it does. That puts me in a tough spot.
Yep. Unless you took my advice again and bought a product that covers that deductible, that covers the out-of-pocket max. I even try to build in that even if the case was it was out of network, like if they were traveling somewhere that, in the middle of Montana, maybe not accept it, that if their out-of-pocket max is 16 grand, I still covered that in that product that pays out a lump sum cash if you're diagnosed with a critical illness.
So let's say my lump sum of cash, if I was diagnosed with a critical illness, and this pays out whether you live or die. Mm-hmm. It's a living benefit and a death benefit.
Correct.
Right. So it pays out on top of your life insurance. Mm-hmm. So let's say old Nick's worth 50 G's on a critical illness. Well, you're telling me that I could take that 50, pay the 7 grand that I owe for whatever, all the bills, and then keep the other 43,000 and we could live off of it, pay mortgages and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
While I heal and get back into the workforce.
Yeah. I mean, and some people use it to get second opinions, to, maybe travel out of the country to get a different type of care. It is your money. You've paid the premiums. You can do with it what you please.
It's a check delivered to your door, right?
Mm-hmm. I would, very rarely do people say no to that. And the people that say no probably have like 7 figures in a bank account ready to go at any time. It's very rare that people say no to that product because they see the value in it.
I can understand if you've got, millions of dollars in the bank, you don't need the 50 grand, cash lump sum that's given to you, but
for $30 a month, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude,
that depends on your age and some pre-existing conditions. That's also a medically underwritten product, just to be correct here, so no one is misled. You can't pay $30 and get 50 if you're 55 or older than that. So
yeah. So as a matter of fact, everything that you've been talking about today would be considered an underwritten plan, and you would have to qualify health-wise to get that. You'd have to go through the underwriting department with the company and so on and so forth. And obviously, you don't qualify, or you choose not to take the government tax credit for a plan of lesser value. I think that's a kind way to say that. Mm-hmm. There was a statistic in 2017 or 18, give or take, and again, I don't know. The source was credible. I don't remember who it was, but it was, and I'm not going to be exact, but it was over 70% of the people that had filed bankruptcy due to a health claim the year prior. Over 70% of them had an active health policy in place, and they still had to file bankruptcy. And at the end of the day, isn't that the sole purpose of the health plan, is to make sure that it's financial protection?
That's exactly right. And that goes back to read the fine print. And if you don't want to read the fine print, then find someone like myself that you trust and has your best interest at heart. You don't know what you don't know if you're not in the industry, and even the language can be confusing. So I always tell people, you can never ask me enough questions, because I want you to know as much as you want to know, in turn, as much as I know about it, because it bothers me to my core that there's such this stink about what health insurance is and what it does. Do I want to pay $1,000 a month for a health insurance policy that I don't really ever use? No. But do I want to not be able to get a liver transplant if something happened to me and I couldn't because I didn't have health insurance? Yeah. Absolutely not. That's the bigger picture.
What other type of insurance besides health insurance do you actually plan to use? Is there one? I don't think so.
No, you don't want to use it. Like if you haven't used it, that's a good thing.
And that keeps your premiums low. And the more you use it, the more they jack them up.
Yeah.
Wow. So think about that, folks.
And not in particular, this is a group, like this policy in particular, that's like in the big world of things, all insurance policies, but they do base it on claims of that group of people that you're in. So it's, the industry we're in, the company, they base it off of the group as a whole. In your state where you live, not necessarily how much you use the policy.
Gotcha.
If you're in a group employer setting and there's 100 people in that company and 3 of them had cancers and heart attacks, your premiums are going up the next year. So that's, how that works. And message me, ask me any questions, if people have questions about that, because I feel like I can give you a clear explanation of how that works.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hiter. Team Hiter has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhiter.com. You got a link for a health consult, or if you wanted to talk through quotes and whatnot. We can make sure that gets in the show notes too, right? So the health consult link, I'm going to make a note here. Good. All right. So real quick, you mentioned group benefits. So, a lot of people, unfortunately, may have to be at a job they don't like to make sure that they can have insurance, good insurance. So, but it doesn't always work out that way. Like a lot of times, what's offered based on the strength of the power of the group, it's not necessarily the best thing that you could get. But based on the company employer maybe paying. All right, COBRA is a misunderstood word.
COBRA is not a separate insurance policy. It is just the retail value of what that company pays for you to be on that policy. So a good example is at a family of 4, they're insured through Vanderbilt, dental, medical, vision, low deductible, incredible network, like great plan. What plans used to be years and years ago before it all changed. And they pay roughly maybe $1,100 for it. When they were getting ready to leave that place, and I said, go get the information from the HR, find out how much COBRA is, the retail price. It was $4,200 for that same plan. So I feel like a lot of people don't realize, like, you may only be, if you're getting paying $50,000, but you have a good health insurance plan, I would ask how much they're paying and times that per month by 12, because you don't realize, that company is paying $2,900 a month for that employee and her family to be on that plan. So COBRA is just the retail value of what the company pays for that plan. Most of the time, most companies do cover a percentage of the employee's portion, and the wife or the child and the spouse get added on. A lot of company plans if you have more than 2 kids, it's the same price no matter what. But there's no cookie cutter answer for what's best for you. Is not going to be what's best for Susan or Mike, because we don't know what they have going on. We don't know their financial situation. We don't know their health. There's so many things that go into putting a plan together that works best for somebody.
So, excuse me, getting back to the network, because there's PPO, you've mentioned that word, or those letters. There's other types of networks. There's HMOs. What are some other ones?
So POS is kind of the bottom of the barrel. It's called point of service. And it's just, you can go see Dr. John over here for these 3 services. If you need a specialist, you can see this doctor over here.
So you get assigned providers.
Yes. So EPO,
you lose choice.
Yes, it is a very, very limited plan. EPO is an exclusive provider network. It does not give you out of network benefits. Neither does the POS. EPOs also, let's say you had a 100-mile radius. 100-mile radius, I would say maybe 15% of doctors would be in network with that. And that's not because they don't want to be. It's just that's what it's assigned. And then you have HMO, which is a health managed organization. And that means you have a gatekeeper. If you need to go see a urologist because you have a kidney infection, you have to go see your primary care. Then you have to go see the specialist, and you have to get a referral from that specialist, and you have to pay copays and different things. So you're racking up all these bills, and then
time too.
Yes, and then the PPO, and those three they don't have out of network benefits. So if you're not in network, you can't even go see anybody, and you may drive to your PCP 20 minutes down the road, but the urologist that's in your network and you can be referred to may be an hour down the road. So you just don't have a lot of options.
You remember that story, that guy years ago that didn't go with the PPO network, you said, and went with something else, and his PCP was, for his 16-year-old son, was a gynecologist?
Yeah, mistake, human error. They put the wrong doctor in there. But yeah, that's what they assigned him. And then, of course, your PPO is the preferred provider organization, and it just gives you a much wider range of doctors.
So when you have that accident, you don't know when and where it's going to happen. And if you need to get a lift that's not an Uber or a Lyft, it's an ambulance, they usually take you to the closest place. They don't really ask you where you're in network to go. And literally, you could be in network across the street, but they took you to the one that wasn't in network, and you're screwed.
Yep.
So access is key, because pretty much everybody that we talk to is going to go on a vacation somewhere. They're going to go out of town. And at the end of the day, are you leaving your insurance policy at home or not?
Right.
And that's a very important question to ask. So the network, in my opinion, you're the expert. What do you say? I say the network's the most important part. I think you kind of touched on that earlier.
It is. It's the number one thing. The first thing that I open with when we start digging into what the conversation is going to be about. And
not only does the network give you access, but it gives you a discount for being in network. And again, the bigger the network, usually a lot of times the bigger the savings. It's not always that way, but it sometimes is. There was another angle that I wanted to touch there. What was it, Nick? Come on, let's see. When you are assigned those doctors on those less full networks, if you live in an area, let's just say where more people qualify for that government subsidy, and so that means more people are going to roll in that area, in that plan, in that network with those selected providers, the line can get pretty long at that doctor's office, yeah?
Oh, very, yes. And a lot of them have to quit taking patients sometimes. So, it's one of those things that we say, buy insurance when you're healthy. Don't buy it after the fact. You can't get car insurance after you've had the wreck, so you can't do health insurance. Again, if it's a situation where you qualify for the healthcare.gov marketplace, that's what it was built for. But if you're looking for something to protect your financials for a critical illness, an accident, or something bad to happen, buy it before something bad happens.
That's so good. Talk to them about like when they're dealing with the people at the front desk. Talk to them about that, because I was always just whatever they said, it was the law. I didn't question it. I assumed they knew what they were talking about, and it just was what it was. I was almost scared to ask questions. Yeah,
it's as someone that works the front desk, I started out at a front desk and worked my way up to the assistant administrator for a doctor's office. And when those people are not trained, and I can say that because I was one of them, you're trained very little, because there's not usually a lot of time, because they need someone in that spot and they need someone to do it. And when I worked at the doctor's office, and I'm sure a lot of them do, it's the way the world works, trying to get bonus. We got a bonus for the amount of money we collected up front. It was a small bonus on the big scale of things, but they're going to collect money. That's what they're going to do. And when you get done at your doctor's office, there is a paper handed to you or a digital paper that goes into the system. The doctor has checked a box called the CPT code. On the bottom of that bill, he's written an ICD-10 code. Those two together, when they're put into the system, that's what spits out the contractual rate from the network. There's no way for a consumer to understand that. I could tell it to someone every day for 2 years. I have 20 years of experience with this. You're never going to understand it the way that I understand it. Even if you try, it's not, and I'm, it's not something I wanted to learn. It's just something I've learned and been good at. And I feel like, honestly, I was kind of being trained my whole life to be in the position we are in the insurance space. And, I had a client recently say, hey, which props to this girl for being on top of things, but she's like, hey, I was looking at my yearly checkup and last year, my blood work was discounted a ton. This year it's not. What happened? Why wasn't I aware of this? That's never going to happen. The insurance companies and the doctor's offices don't even have that on. There's not a chart on the front that tells you what your fee's going to be based on your insurance.
Yeah.
Because that's something I did at that doctor's office. It's called credentialing, and you get those contracts between each doctor. So it's a facility. There could be 20 doctors. Every single one of those doctors has a separate contract with all of their networks. Blue Cross has who knows how many networks. Every single one of them. And it is a very tedious process. And they change those contracts every single year. So she was questioning, like, what do I do? I said, well, first call the facility and say, what happened? Did you forget to renew your contract or something? And that's where I really come in to these clients, is just that simple knowledge, just you can send me a text and ask me a question and we can probably figure it out in less than 5 minutes, rather than you spend 2 hours getting mad that it didn't work, or you think I lied to you, or you did this. You just forgot what I said, because who wants to listen to what I'm saying most of the time about insurance? Like, even I'm like, do I really know all this? Like, so it's not a fun topic, but it is an important one. And
it's necessary.
It is. And, the plans, I was in a conversation with some people on Facebook the other day, and they just kept on and on about how the plan's not credible. You got sold the wrong policy. And, and people just don't understand what they don't understand. And if you don't ask the right questions or even know what to ask, you're not going to get what you're looking for, because it's not what you made it out to be or what that person sold it to you was for.
You used to compare Ruth's Chris and like Outback or Logan's or something like that. People know if a steak's $100 before they go in there and $20 before they go in. But a lot of times you don't know if your doctor is the Ruth's Chris or the Outback of their industry. And and guess what? Your insurance company isn't going to pay differently because you chose to go to the best guy in town or the best lady in town. Like back then, we definitely didn't go to Ruth's Chris very often.
Right.
Now we can go a lot more if we want, but like back then we couldn't. We had to go to Outback. So, and I think that was a big thing that we used to learn too. Is like, man, like they bought a premium steak when they shouldn't have.
Yeah, and it is a very complex industry. It changes every single day. The processes in doctor's office change. It is not federally regulated. The doctor across the street can charge whatever he wants, and the doctor down the street can charge less than that to get more patients. At the end of the day, the hospital, the doctor's office, they're all a business. They're all for profit.
They are privately owned businesses.
Yeah, they're trying to make money, and there's just so much more that goes into what a consumer sees on a daily basis. And if I didn't do this for a living, I would definitely make sure I knew someone that did.
Wow. Well, there's a scene in My Cousin Vinny, an old movie that I love, where basically at the end, to win the case, Joe Pesci has to call his fiancée, which is what was her name, Jensen? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Oh my God, I love her as an actress. She's amazing. You remember what I'm talking about, Rhiannon? What was her name?
I don't remember.
I'm gonna have to hold on, I'm gonna look it up. I can't let this go. But anyways, I'll look it up while I tell the story. So in My Cousin Vinny, he calls they have to call a mechanic to dispute the prosecution's testimony. And Marissa Tomei,
Yes.
That's her name. Gosh, I love her. Marissa Tomei. And so he calls a hairdresser, Marissa Tomei, to the stand to talk about a car model and brakes and all that kind of stuff. And it was the coolest thing because she grew up in a garage. Her whole family was mechanics. And she literally just went up there and blew everybody away. And it was cool because Joe Pesci was just sitting there and he's just grinning, and she did her thing and he goes, "That's right." Basically, like, he's like, "Yeah, that's how I feel watching you talk about this." It's like, man, like she's just really, really good at this. She gets it. She knows it. She does it for the right reasons. And more importantly, when you need her, you can find her type thing. And it's just, I'm so proud to be your husband when I hear you do these things, because you're so good at it. And it's just such a cool thing to watch. Just like you get proud. I hope you get proud of me from time to time. We get proud of our kids. Dude, I could listen to you talk about this stuff all day long. We can't do that today. I can bring you back for part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 anytime we want. But it's just you truly are. You're extremely good at it, and 100% of the time, even when people don't want to hear it because they're frustrated, you always have that breakthrough with them and get them to see things through a proper lens.
That's right. It's, what the products that I have available, that unless you're licensed and contracted with a company, they're not for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I've never said that or made it out to be. And that's why we make sure that everybody qualifies for it before I'm even presenting a product.
Yeah.
And again, if I know that this is what's best for you, that's what's out there, there's nothing I'm not going to share knowledge with you about and show you all the other options that are available and give, here's where their brochures are. Read it for yourself. Because I do feel so strongly about what the products do and who they're for, and they do work for those people. So I feel like right now the most clients I'm getting are the people that never want to go to the doctor, that are seeking holistic care, for other things, and they pay cash for that. So they're not looking for insurance for their day-to-day holistic care, their checkups, for their, chiropractic visits, for maintenance, or, whoever they want to see for holistic care. They're looking for that big stuff, the sicknesses, the critical illness, the accident, that, if something happens, they're not at a loss. So
I can't speak for all insurance policies, and I can't speak for all the board members and owners and all the people that are in those companies, and I can't even speak for all the agents. But at the end of the day, in any business, when a customer's unsatisfied, it's usually because somebody dropped the ball, or they chose the wrong product for whatever it is they were wanting to get done. Right? They chose the wrong product or service. And I understand why doctors want to get paid money up front, because it can take months to get paid from the insurance company. So think about that, everybody. You go do the work and you can't get paid for months on it. And that can be tough. And, these doctors go to school for a very long time. And in any other type of thing, when you go to school and you're elite and you have knowledge that most people don't have, you get paid royally for that. So I get it. I understand all sides. I truly do. I wish everybody could talk to you and have the education that you have and the knowledge that you have, so that they could apply it to life and make better decisions, but more importantly, manage their own expectations. So everybody should talk to Riri.
that's right. They should.
Everybody should talk to Riri. And you actually love doing it.
I do. I enjoy the relationships. I mean, the people I've met over the last 12 years, I have relationships with all of them. And most of the time I end up on a Zoom with someone or an appointment, and lately it's because our kids go to the same school. So just randomly they found me on Facebook. So I do. I really do love it.
Beauty and brains, the whole package, baby. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm just going to throw this out there. You've never been more attractive than you're sitting there right now today, because I get to listen to you do your thing, man. It's awesome. Is there any final thoughts you would have for anybody on the topic of health insurance, or what they can expect reaching out for you? I would just offer one thing, and that's a lot of times underwriting can take 30 days or so. So if you're 2 weeks out, you're not ahead, you're actually behind. just because they may need to get a statement from a resident physician or whatever else, about something. You got any final words for those folks out there that, maybe they're thinking, do I have the best policy right now? Even if they have a policy in place, can they call?
They can always call. Private insurance, you can apply for 365 days a year. If for some reason your situation is because you work at an employer and you can't get off that plan, we're going to talk through that together. But it never hurts to come up with the strategy. Yesterday, I helped someone that her husband is up for a job. And if that job goes through, then they're going to need to buy their own health insurance. And when I gave her the price of her and her husband, she was floored. She's like, that's all it is? Why did I think it was going to be more? And she was strategically planning. I may not ever speak to her again if her husband doesn't get this job. He may not even need it. But we took 20 minutes and got on a phone call to just talk through it. Yeah. It never hurts to just know. And I promise you that I will, if you have what's best, if there's something better, I'm going to tell you either way. I'm going to tell you what it's not going to do and make sure your expectations are properly set. And, again, communication and trust. That's really all it is.
You got plans tonight? I hope I can be part of those plans. I hope I can be a part of those plans. Well, any final thoughts, Rhi?
No, I'm just ready to help the next people. That's all.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial. So, folks, check it out. You need to keep up with Rhiannon on all social media. It's at Rhiannon Hiter. All right, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. And they're in the show notes. The health consult, or even to fill out a questionnaire. There's direct links to that to get on her calendar. You can also find all those on teamhiter.com right now. And I would encourage you to do that. And, in the time of the year that we're in, a lot of people bought policies in November and December last year, and they're using them the first time, and they're disappointed, right? So again, if you don't know what you bought, make sure that when you lay your head on your pillow every night, that you know that you got the best thing for your family's health and your family's budget, right?
That's right.
At the end of the day. So, well, girl, thanks for the hang today.
You're welcome. I can talk about insurance in my sleep.
Sometimes you do.
That's true. I can talk about a lot of things, but I know this like the back of my hand. So
absolutely. Well, it's again, watching you do your thing, it's freaking cool, man. It's awesome, and you are extremely good at it. And I'm proud to be your husband.
Well, I'm proud to be your wife.
Let's go.
You got us into it, and now I'm taking off with it. So.
That's right. Well, thank you for the hang today, girl.
It was fun. I
appreciate it. Folks, my queen, Rhiannon Hiter. She's labeled as the vice president of Team Hiter. That ain't even right. I'm
the owner.
That's right. She's running the show. TeamHiter.com is where you can find anything and everything to book time with her, do some research, whatever it may be, and catch up with her. Make sure you're following her on all social media platforms. Folks, once again, I'm your man, Nick Hiter. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. God bless.